Here's the thing. No, you won't crit as much, but you're gonna hit harder with the crits you do. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Her damage is overall underwhelming, and the reason why that is because Electro's a bad element.
But he's not the best character. Who is the best character in the game? I think the best character in the game is Kazuha.
お主らを頼りにしておる。かたじけない。
大丈夫か、金右衛門。ごめんな。遅くなった。
あの世にお天様に合わせる顔が。背負ってくれんか、和の国を。
Hello there, Philip here, and today we're going to be concluding with the two biggest commentary Genshin channels by adding another victim to the Genshin court, MTashed. And unlike others in this series, and actually no, he would be the first quote-unquote free-to-play to be trialed here, which actually does make a difference in how his content is misleading or somewhat untrustworthy. Also, for those of you who don't know what the Genshin court is or what it entails, the TLDR of it is that I'll be trialing certain Genshin content creators based on their takes on characters of the game in general, and be giving them a fitting sentence for it accordingly. Okay, so with trialing MTashed, seeing as he is a free-to-play or essentially playing extremely budget, he literally named himself the free-to-play god, which I'm going to die of cringe every time I have to read that on the script. But thinking that since he is similar in position to the average player, doesn't free him of having bad takes or giving wrong advice, which you should always look into yourself. The free-to-play god himself saying that having over 50 crit is fine with a lot of crit damage, as when you crit it will do more damage, which anyone who has looked at how average damage and DPS is calced would laugh at. Moving back to Toko and MTashed as a whole, what he does in most of his videos and when giving out team advice is something we dub feels crafting, which is essentially using your own personal experience and testing that isn't standardized to form a conclusion. It would be like getting a fucking level 60 Ganyu and putting it against a triple crown 200 crit value Sayu with Redhorn, and then saying Sayu is a better DPS than Ganyu. Just watch any Vors video or Sekapoka video for more than 5 seconds and you'll understand pretty quickly. Another thing that Tashman did, which isn't related to meta but made him infamous, was for saying that he was going to quit Genshin every other day because of the game's state, and now he's proceeded to play the game for almost 2 years, but that was in the past and we're focusing on the present. And since we're in the present, one thing you can presently do is drop a like if at any point during the video you're entertained or informed, and make sure to subscribe to let us clown on more Genshin information in the future. Now back on topic. The main issue with MTashed would be something every big content creator is guilty of. Bias. But not in the sense that he's biased towards character he likes, but in the sense he's biased towards the character he owns on his account, which is something he admits here himself.
I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it, because then people are going to judge me. I think she's better than I thought she was. But let me explain. Before, I was like, well, I don't really want to get her, and because I'm not getting her and I'm not forced to get her, you know, I played her like the bare minimum kind of thing. You know, I never looked at, well, how many charge attacks should I do or anything like that. Like I didn't really put in that much effort into caring about her.
And I combine this with feels crafting and we go into our first piece of evidence.
Your thoughts on Kokomi? I mean, I've never really built her, so it's hard to say. I mean, I know that she does decent, but I've never really built her, so it's hard for me to like really know. I know she's good, but she's not great, I don't think. People act like she's like the second coming of Bennett. I don't know. She's fine, but I just don't think that she's like this game-changing thing.
It's actually mind-boggling how you can say you don't know how a character works and then proceed to talk on the character like you know and have tested them despite not knowing how they work. It really isn't hard to just say you don't know instead of going ahead and start saying essentially nothing to downplay a character. Just again to remind you, MTashed himself said that when a character isn't on his account, he could give less of a fuck of looking into them or actually crafting them. So keep in perspective, the MTashed Kokomi is referencing is a level 60 talent level 111 Kokomi, who he used on a vaporized team at a time when the clam set wasn't released. That is diabolical. When Kokomi first released, many content creators, including me, made videos on Kokomi's meta placement calling her underwhelming, but there were a lot of things we didn't yet realize about her that made her a really strong character. I have looked through all the clips about MTashed talking about Kokomi, and what he fails to mention is her sustained AoE Hydra application, which is not only good on freeze teams, but also enables extremely strong electrocharged or taser teams in AoE content. And because of how characters like Yai Midko work, Yai Miko teams scale better with Kokomi and AoE than they do with Xingqiu. Same case with Kaza taser teams. Also in these taser teams, Kokomi's personal damage is nothing to sneeze at, because she's going to be on field getting high damage from clam set ticks, making her damage not be a dead weight. Downplaying Kokomi is cringe.
Thrilling Tales of the Dragon Slayer on her, and some basic artifacts, and she's doing great. And I'm like, okay, she's doing fine. But like, if you want Kokomi to be like really godly, you would need like all the HP artifacts, and you'd want defense. You want her to be super tanky, a ton of energy recharge.
And then this take just leaves me in a state of discombobulament. Kokomi with the Hakushin ring can get high enough clam procs to where she is doing 20% of the team's damage. And I know no one knows what this weapon is, but it's this one right here. So that means it's not even about low investment. She actually just doesn't need everything to roll into HP for her to be doing well on the team. That's the equivalent of saying that if you don't roll every single piece with crit damage and attack for your Ayaka, then your Ayaka is low invested, or she's just getting by. Sure, Kokomi does scale well with not that many stats, but the amount of stats she actually does need, she can get enough of from just main stats alone. You don't have to go to the extremes. This is again what I said MTashed is guilty of doing a lot. Feels crafting. These are just his thoughts he's throwing out as an argument against Kokomi, but it isn't actually based on any actual evidence.
You could throw Thrilling Tales on anyone and make it work. But it doesn't mean they're like godly. It's just like they're just functioning. They're just doing like basic shit. I don't know.
There are 7 Hydro units in the game. 5 of them apply consistent Hydro. Only 2 of them apply it consistently off field. And even then, Aito is debatable for that. How is Kokomi sustained off-field Hydro just basic shit? Alright, that'll be all for this piece of evidence. Something else I forgot to mention is that MTashed actually isn't all that bad on his main channel, but the moment he switched to his clips channel, it becomes night and day. It reminds me of a meme my friend made. It's so fucking stupid. Back on topic. For the crime of committing slander against a certain fish, that'll be up to a year for using irrelevant claims to defame her name, and 2 years for a clear and evident bias which you have admitted to. Now let's move on to the next piece of evidence.
That is a nice amount of free damage to get, and it works off field, which is really exciting. I love that. Obviously, it would work really good with Yelan.
No.
Works probably pretty good with Fischl. The only issue with Fischl is Fischl doesn't really need energy recharge at all, because you don't even really want to use her burst half the time. It's like fine, but I feel like I never need to use Fischl's burst.
He does know Fischl's burst resets us, right?
Recharge, because energy recharge is super valuable overall. It is really strong, but then you could also argue, well, what about something like the sacrificial bow and resetting your cooldown? You know, that has a lot of value too. But let's take.
Okay, this gives me some leeway to talk about sacrificial weapons. This series is so fucking overrated, it's unreal. Favonius realistically does what sacrificial does, but better, even at lower refines, because it doesn't have to take up the field time to use 2 elemental skills. And especially if you're using a character like Diona or Xingqiu, funnily enough the characters most people use sacrificial on, the animation times for their abilities are actually quite long, so Favonius would be a better option for them. And it also gives value in battering the whole team instead of just one character, lowering ER requirements, allowing you to use more offensive substats for your carry. There are still some cases like in Sucre's National where sacrificial is preferred so you can double nuke the femboy's E, but that's about it really. In any other case, Favonius weapons absolutely dog walk sacrificial.
Use this on Kujosara. You can use this on Yelan.
No you can't.
You can't complain about. It works on pretty much everyone in the game.
It works on Fischl and Sarah. That's it.
rely on is the new weapon can be used by pretty much every character in the game. Anyone benefits from energy recharge, anyone doing more damage is a win, and it's got a pretty good base attack. So while it's not the best thing that there's ever been, I still think that it is a valuable weapon to get. I think it is worth the effort to get, and I think that you could even consider using it for now.
Right before this, you just explained why the bow does nothing exceptional, and now you proceed to say that it's a must build. Any event weapon that has been bad at the time of release has never gotten any better. Saying that a future character might scale with it so you should build it is literally copium. If a character comes out that can benefit from the bow in the future, then it's simply better to invest in the bow at that time. This is literally how cryptocurrency scams happen, I swear to God.
Again, middle of the road to high tier. It's valuable because it's free.
You heard it here, guys. Alloy is valuable. Okay, so that concludes the second piece of evidence. I don't know how you can come to the conclusion that the weapon was something omni-universal when it is at most used on 2 characters. Another thing MTashed likes to do is hype up the event weapons, which he has done for every single one, despite the fact that most of them are just invaluable. This also goes back to what I said earlier, to where when he has something, he will praise it, because MTashed openly praises weapons like this, but then goes on to shit on some of the 5-star weapons, despite some of them having more utility. He really isn't helping any free-to-plays by telling them to level up a really mediocre weapon, even if the weapon is free and looks decent, which in MTashed defense, the weapon actually looks good, but that doesn't change the use cases for it. Something that is mid will still be mid later on, like My Hero Academia, so unless MTashed had proof of the weapon working well on anyone, which he didn't because he just got the weapon, then guess what? MTashed is doing feels crafting. Now let's move on to the last piece of evidence. I'm giving you another year just for using this team. What in God's name am I looking at?
Energy back. I feel like she's doing her job and she's doing it well. She's hitting really hard, but as I kind of thought before, I don't think she breaks the game. I don't think she is a meta-defining character that like, Xingqiu, get on the bench.
Okay, so I'm someone who thinks that the Yelan hype is too much because there are some people who genuinely think she's the second best character, but MTashed, my brother in Christ, you have just said she does the exact same thing as Xingqiu, but with more damage. And you know Xingqiu is someone a lot of people regard as a top 5 or even top 2 character. So I just would want to know how having another Xingqiu is not meta-defining. Yelan being added made an entirely new team core with double Hydra, which is absolutely meta-defining. And before someone says that these are his first thoughts, thank you, but he hasn't made a follow-up video. So for the people who looked for his advice on Yelan, this is what they were left with, and this is what's going to be shared around.
And you've got the Hydro, you've got some Animo, you could throw in a Zhongli shield, you could throw in a Diona shield. Maybe you want to use Sucrose, Shangling, Yelan, and Diona.
Tectone moment?
Tone. I read Dr. Stone anime, and it was so good, and I learned about science from my manga. Player, I think you pick her up because you're bored of using Xingqiu, and you just want some some booba and armpit, and you essentially want the same function. But I don't think it's like one of those situations where you now bench the unit.
You could also just use them together.
All right, Xingqiu walks up.
How do you come up with these teams? What was the thought process behind this monstrosity?
But do you have a Ganyu? Incredible DPS. Do you have a Hu Tao? Do you have Kamisato Ayaka? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6, maybe 7.
Okay, so one thing I've never liked about Genshin content creators in general, and not just MTashed specifically, is this shit they made up called the average player. Why do you just assume players have absolutely no characters or ass-wipe characters on their account? Why do you just assume someone doesn't have enough save to get both? When someone says the average player for an argument, most likely what they mean or are actually saying is that I don't have an actual point, so I'll just make an assumption to fit my own narrative. What is the average player? Because your thoughts on it are most likely different to everyone else's thoughts on it, which is why I don't think it's fair to use.
Content for people that don't know, that are new to the game. If you're a veteran, you could probably see this footage and go, oh, I'm getting her, or I'm not getting her. I don't need to tell you this. I get that. This game is kind of solved, and I know that most of you already have the answer to a lot of these questions, but I want to help out the new players that are coming into the game.
Okay, I just want to say, MTashed is actually my favorite Genshin content creator, and I've been watching him since Destiny, and I actually don't think his Genshin takes are that bad compared to the others I've seen. But saying that your content is tailored towards newer players, while essentially going off on the equivalent to Genshin ship headcanons, is disingenuous. But yes, this will close off our final piece of evidence. All in all, the free-to-play god will be getting another year for making me have to look up those teams he made, as well as another 2 for not providing a single piece of concrete evidence to support any claim you have made in the past 3 pieces of evidence I've looked at. That'll be all for now. Court is now closed. And that'll be MTashed done. I don't really know what to say about him or my conclusions on him. On his main channel, I actually do think compared to the start of the game, that he's a good content creator and his takes aren't that bad. They should just be supported by, you know, some sort of evidence. But his second channel, that is something else and significantly more worrying, because that is what he is saying on his Twitch streams live to a lot of people asking for his advice, which is, you're not the best from someone who thinks I Want to Lose is a reliable source of Genshin information. I just want to make this clear as well, that there is nothing wrong with doing things like fields crafting, but when you're a content creator, the second biggest Genshin content creator, and you say that you want to help newer players, I find an issue with not going to fact check anything you've said and purposely downplaying characters you don't have. And on that note, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, subscribe and comment your thoughts on MTashed, as I'd love to hear it and I respond to almost every single comment. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you on the flip side. Peace.
Stay with me, little bitch. Yeah, you know that I'm no man to be kept like a snitch. No thoughts.